Okay. So Joel, please, the floor is yours. So Joel come from the Center of Medical Image Science and Visualization of Linköping University. I hope I did quite well that. And he's going to present a big picture extending ELIXIR technologies for sensitive personal data to AI research and innovation in digital pathology. So we are looking forward to hear from you. And then we are having Sara Mars, who is going to speak about how we empower the patients. And I will to ask you to go straight after Joel. And then we are going to have our last but not least speaker, Abel, Ureta-Vidal, who is going to speak about healthcare diagnostic from bench to market, learnings from a newbie investor in the field. So you all have 15 minutes. Please, for the audience who is in streaming, put your questions on. And then we are having 15 minutes of questions and answers, and everybody's going to come to the stage, so we are going to discuss a little bit all these aspects. Joel, please, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Do I have slides? Yes, I do. So I shocked the organizers by bringing 60 slides to a 15-minute presentation. And the reason I did that is that I don't know you. I thought this would be an ELIXIR crowd, but there's a bunch of externals who may not even know about ELIXIR and why it's a good idea to do these things. And there's a bunch of people joining us online, and I can't see you. I can feel your presence. But I will do the next best thing to try and figure out who's in the room. So I do data-driven innovation in healthcare diagnostics, specifically in AI. Who else in this room does that? 1, 2. And does anyone else do data-driven innovation in healthcare diagnostics? Wow, tough crowd. One more, yes, cool, thank you. Let's go on. How many of you know about ELIXIR? Yeah, a bunch. Oh, I'm not so far off target then. How many of you know about the Bigpicture? A couple of you, yes, of course. How many of you know about digital pathology? Thank you. How many of you know about AI? Good. Let's do this. So I work at the Center for Medical Imaging Science and Visualization in Linköping, where the clinical workflow for digital pathology was invented. It was invented by the same people who are now running the Bigpicture project. So when we were setting up the Bigpicture project, we engaged with all 5 fully digitized pathology clinics in Europe to set this project up. A few years later, there were 5 only in Sweden. And now I've lost track of how many there are only in Sweden. And in Europe, there's hundreds. So that is innovation, bringing something theoretical, used mainly for research, all the way into everyday practice, in this case in the clinic. So this is a huge EU project, and it has rules for what I am allowed to say to you. So I am going to bring another example to the table that's called the IDA Data Hub, and we are doing that for Sweden. And we're using ELIXIR processes to do this for Sweden. And it's been successful, if I may say so myself. So it's seen as a demonstrator or an exemplar that the big picture vision can be realized in practice, at least for one country. So that's hopeful, right? So you may have access to the meeting agenda and to the folder where all the presentations are. So if you have questions, you can go in there. You can check all the 60 slides if you want. And if you still have questions, you can ask them later, you know. The green button is forward. Yeah. So how do you do it? Yeah, I also have a recipe for how to do innovation. What you do, you engage for common interests with a bunch of important stakeholders for innovation. And then you base your technology platform on ELIXIR technologies because they already did all the heavy lifting for you. If you are going to be active in healthcare, data, whatever, use ELIXIR tools. That's my basic advice to you. And then you work iteratively from there. You may make a tiny product, an MVP, not even that, just to demonstrate that you can have something, and then you discuss with all these stakeholders until you have something excellent. That's the only way to do it. So if you're wondering about Bigpicture, what the status is, this is the slide for you. You can go home after if this is all that you're interested in. So it's a joint undertaking, meaning that huge big pharma companies put in a lot of money and convince the commission that this is a good idea to double this up. And so now we're joining up with public partners and big pharma partners to do this. And we've been in execution phase since February last year. And I am heading up repository infrastructure development, and we're using IDA Data Hub datasets as pilot data to figure out how to do this. And we have a pilot system in place. It uses the ELIXIR technologies. And we've received the first clinical data sets from Region Östergötland in Sweden and from Medical University of Vienna and from the University Medical Center of Utrecht in the Netherlands. We will enter large-scale archive operations in March next year. And yeah, I'll say a little more about federated nodes in a second or two. I realize that I don't have a clock here, so stop me when I'm going over time, yes? So what do we hope to accomplish with Bigpicture? Well, we are setting up the largest database of this very relevant data type in this exploding field. It's the first of this scale in Europe, and we're ethical and legally compliant by design because we're using the ELIXIR principles. That's for free. Great. We are engaging with the experts of the field to ensure that we know the quality of the data, not necessarily choosing the best data, because then you mistrain your AI, which will fail when it meets real data. So we're having quality control data, so we know the quality. We're building an expensive platform. It's not just a petabyte storage platform. That's easy, that's cheap. We can use tape, it's useless. This is fast, this is for AI, this is expensive storage with expensive compute connected to it. It is a real groundbreaking effort we're doing here. And this reciprocity in use, you have a community building effort to ensure that everybody who engages gets value out of their engagements. I'll wait for you to snap your photo before changing slides, or you can just look at my slides afterwards. So comparisons between Bigpicture and IDA Data Hub. Bigpicture is obviously better in most ways that I care about, but IDA Data Hub is there. It has been operational for years. IDA Data Hub does all of medical imaging diagnostics, clinical medical imaging diagnostics, whereas Bigpicture only does pathology. But for all these other factors, I like Bigpicture more, and when Bigpicture is mature, I will switch to that technology for my IDA Data Hub. What also is important is point number 4 here. So Bigpicture will do clinical data, the type that I'm normally interested in, but it will also do toxicology, non-clinical data, animals, figuring out how to develop new drugs. Yes. So this is the call title, a central repository for blah, 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 blah. That won't work. That's not sustainable. Of course not, but we had to write that because that's what they wanted. And there's economy of scale of establishing a central repository for investing in a big compute system. You get more for the same buck if you buy one big system instead of several. But this can't scale. You must leave the opportunity open for people to have their data at their place and compute on the data on their place and invite people to come in and use their data. You don't force people to hand over the data because that's where the money is. So if that's your plan, you will fail. So do federate it. Yes, this is the vision. We have realized this vision in Sweden with IDA Data Hub. We will be the catalyst in digital transformation and so on and so forth. We do this by bringing these stakeholders together that I talked about, big pharma, academia, hospitals, research organizations, RCOs, SMEs. ELIXIR is on there in Finland and Sweden. There is Sectrap in there, who is the majority provider of the tools people use in hospitals to look at radiology images. And they will help us extract data from clinics to put into this. So you can go into my slides and look at these logos if you want. So we're building a community And that's how we hope to generate this reciprocity and value add for everybody who is involved. It will be sustainable and inclusive because that's how you do this. We will create value and reciprocity in all the interactions. Yes. And we do that by setting up a bunch of ways to use the platform. One is the one you may think of immediately, like somebody uploads data that they want to share, somebody else can download it or use it on the platform. That's the top one there. And then there is also the challenge part, like ImageNet and Kaggle and Grand Challenge and these things where you publish data in a difficult field and ask geniuses to come up with AI solutions to that. That's number 2 there, algorithm upload to receive back results, that's challenges. Algorithm downloads, somebody published a paper on an AI and then they make the AI available to other people, download and play with it and take it apart and change it and whatever, the open source for AI models. And the last one is data upload. That's software as a service. Say that you have a commercial product for mammography, for instance, but there's 10 of them. Which one should I use? Well, if they're made available products on the platform, you can upload your patient data there anonymously and privately. Nobody else will access it. And you can see which of these algorithms should I procure for my hospital, for my patients. So that's what we want to do, yes. And here is a schematic view of the community and the platform there in the middle and people adding on content and factors, enabling factors to it with an honest broker scheme to ensure that everybody's rights are protected. Some numbers, 4.5 petabytes to be collected over these years, 2 million animal slides, 1 million clinical slides, biggest ever collected. There will be tools, interfaces, pointer-clicky things. We will work on acceptance, facilitating use and reuse of this data and collaboration in this way with regulators like FDA and EMA. And we are developing business cases to ensure that this platform doesn't die after year 6. So there needs to be money coming into this somehow. And we will also try to make that money not come from academia because we want to have this open science enabling fair access to all of these things. So here is a rough agenda going forward. So we have now passed month 18. We have received the first clinical data. We will receive animal data later because that's more sensitive according to big pharma corporations. And around that time we will start opening up for more general access to whatever we've assembled so far. Yes. I think I will skip past a lot of these slides, but you can look at them yourself in the folder. Oh, that's an important part. This will be my last slide. So this is how it works, how you set up mutually beneficial relations in a huge project like this, is that you have a central, or whatever, a service at least, that is a data processor. And it should be good enough that people want to use it. So other people are data owners, data controllers, if you wish, that's a proper term. And then they can choose to use the service under a contract that makes them still controllers. No control is passed on to the platform. That means if the platform is bad, the controllers can replace it with something else. You don't have vendor lock-in that way. It's very important. This is built into the EGA model and the federated EGA model. That's what we will do. And also a data user can apply for access, and that's an issue between the contributor and the user, and they agree on whether this accessor is suitable for accessing the data. And then the service just facilitates the interaction, takes no part in the decision making, but just facilitates this. So everybody who is legally supposed to be responsible for caretaking of the data will be so, and the platform will not. It's just the convenient place to have it for a while. That's all I want to say. I'll end on a very shameless plug. This one. So we need a lot of people. So click that stuff and apply to engineering jobs. We have more senior positions opening up very soon. I need to recruit about 6 people or more in the fall. Yes, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yes, I'll put it there.
Thank you very much. Thank you. So we have this science point of view, and then we will have Sara March on the stage, and she will give us this patient's point of view. Let me, Sara, present you. So Sara is a project manager for SalusCoop, and her talk is going to be empowering citizens. Could patients drive innovation? So we are looking forward to hear you.
Hello, everyone. First of all, I would like to thank the organizers for inviting us to this ELIXIR forum. It's always a pleasure. My name is Sara, and I am the coordinator of the SalusCoop cooperative. And the title of the session is about whether or not citizens could drive innovation. Well, I'm here to tell you the story of SalusCoop. SalusCoop is an initiative, is a cooperative where citizens try to all together offer data to do health research. It's a way of data altruism. And one of the things that we always say is that if we are able to give data by posting or on Instagram or by tweeting, what would that happen if we would give this data for a purpose, no? Or for a health purpose, in this case, which is a matter that everybody has. So as I said, SalusCoop is a citizens data cooperative that accelerates research and innovation in the healthcare sector. Let me explain you a little bit the context where SalusCoop was born. There was a group of citizens that were disposed and were willing to donate data for health research. And also there were a lot of researchers that didn't have enough data to carry on their research, let's say, for instance, real-world data, because data is not easily accessible. So that is why in that moment, the citizens and the people from SalusCoop decided to create this cooperative, especially because after the COVID-19, we have realized the importance of connecting citizens and researchers to get breakthroughs together, and how important it is to collect data and how many things we can do if we have a lot of data in terms of health research. So in this sense, what we try to address in SalusCoop is, first of all, the issue of the economic pressure on public health systems and the opportunity of maximize the costs and the benefits that we put on health and the investment that we put on health research. We also try to address the issue of the technological trend, that the data-driven innovation in technological development and research. And we also try to address the volunteer and the capacity of citizens to act in research, to be close to research and to express their social demand in terms of health research. So in this sense, in SalusCoop, we try to offer citizens, advocate citizens in controlling their data, in offering their data, how we can support them in do this part of giving the data for health research. We also help researchers to accelerate their research by removing these barriers that they have when they are looking for data. And we also empower citizens and boost citizens in having an active role in science and in health research. So in this sense, we try to help citizens to manage their personal and health data and share with scientific research projects and help researchers to access to more valuable data. And how we do it? So we are unique, we are a cooperative. That means that everybody is welcome to our project. We can be as most partners as possible because all together are part of the decision bodies of the cooperative. We are democratic, our governance is democratic, and we invite citizens to be partners of the cooperative and to decide all together what are the main concerns that we have in the field of health and what are those activities or initiatives in the field of research that we want to provide our data in order to develop them or to support researchers who are carrying on their breakthroughs. How we do it? We have an application. This application, you can download this application into your phone. In the application, you have a sort of catalog full of research projects that you can check and you can decide voluntarily if you want to donate or not your data, your personal data, but also your health-related data. You can give your mobility data that you have in your device, but also you can answer questionnaires that researchers had prepared before and they had given them to us, and you can answer them giving this specific data to researchers. And this is the application that we have, and you can download it in your mobile. It's real. Then we also have this license, the Salus Common Good license. The license of the application was created at the beginning of the cooperative in 2017. When it was created, it was done through a participatory process with citizens, asking them what would they like to find in this application or how they would like to share their data with research projects. In this sense, the solutions that we had for the license for this application is that data will be always pseudonymized, will be private, and will be, of course, under control in order to guarantee the data trust and the data transparency to citizens that are offering this data, because this was one of the main concerns about, okay, I want to give my data for research purpose, but I don't know what's going to happen with this data that I'm giving. So we need to ensure this part with this license that we have. That application also counts with a blockchain technology, and we are in fact working with different research centers as ES Global or Vall d'Hebron Research Institute here in Barcelona and other universities as Universitat Oberta de Catalunya. Finally, I'm going to explain you a little bit how do we work. We are a group of citizens. We are partners, but we also have friendly communities that are also together with us offering data to research projects. So we all together decide what are those topics that we want to reach, that we want to address, that we feel that are important for our health. So then when we decide a topic, we look for the researchers that are working in this field. We contact them. We offer them the possibility to get real-world data from our application. So then we can bridge this we can bridge citizens and researchers in this sense, and trying to enroll also researchers in these demands that citizens we have. So then when we go to researchers, we try to engage them by asking them what are the data that they need. So then we prepare the application with all the requirements that researchers need to develop their research and to get interesting results. Then we take this engagement of researchers and we do a campaign in order to reach not only the partners and the friendly communities that we have in the cooperative, but also other people around that are willing to offer their data for research purposes. And then we do this part of donation where we launch the campaign and we start collecting all this data that later on we will offer to researchers in a database. Then researchers will be able to work on all this data collected, will be able to develop their research. So in fact, citizens would have helped them to carry on this research and to accelerate this health research. And what we expect from researchers once the project is finished is this return to the community by disseminating results or giving a talk to the participants about all the results or whatever that they had discovered thanks to the data of the citizens. We are almost 30 partners in the cooperative. We are willing, we want to be more and more and more. So we invite everybody who is interested in participating in our adventure. We are 4 people working there right now, but we expect to be more people in the future. And that's everything for today. I want to ask you if you will join us, because we want to be more people, of course. But this is everything for today. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Sara, and please, you need to join the community because they are deciding the project. You know, it's something which is going to be really important. So for our last talk, we have Abel Ureta-Vidal, who is come from the venture capital of Nina, is a venture partner of Nina Capital, and he will talk about healthcare diagnostic from bench to market, learning for a newbie investor in the field. Thank you very much, Abel.
Well, thank you for the invitation. And the first time when Smina contacted me to give a talk in this session, so I thought deciding what hat I'm going to be wearing, and I thought I'd decide to wear the hat of venture partner in Nina Capital. But just to give a bit of context, I'm an entrepreneur, set up a company called Eagle Genomics in 2008 and exited in 2020. Eagle Genomics is a software platform doing genomic data management, B2B. So, and then, since then I've been involved in investment funds, and for the last year within Nina Capital, and I've learned a lot about diagnostics, okay, but I'm not a specialist. So what I thought, because it was about, key for success, is maybe trying to give you my learning for the last year. I've been involved with Nina about what an investor wants to see from a startup getting into diagnostics, okay? Just a couple of words about Nina Capital. Is a venture fund based in Barcelona, so nearby, and is a pre-seed seed fund investment. So they invest ticket size of about 250K to $1 million. Not only in Spain, they invest all over Europe, and the sector they are looking into is health tech, with a very strong component in software and data, including medical devices. So, for example, therapeutics, Nina Capital doesn't do. So if you want to talk to me about that, I can, but not, as Nina Capital. Right. Let me kind of show you, is that one? Kind of a slide that it tells you a bit the kind of the promise of diagnostics or early diagnostics. And this slide, I took it from a paper published about 3 or 4 years ago about, the paradigm that when you get symptoms and only have the diagnostic afterwards, or you get complication after the diagnostics afterwards, then obviously the life expectancy is shorter and the cost of managing the disease can spiral up. The promise is if you get earlier diagnostics, so before symptoms, you can get the disease at very early onset, and the assumption being that you'll get better treatment or delay the progression of the disease. And the same thing, if you have diagnostics that can help you predict complications, you can have a kind of closer monitoring to avoid those complications or intervention before they happened. And this graph basically has also 2 assumptions kind of included. One, that obviously life expectancy is increased, and that's great, but that early diagnostics also maintain the cost lower, as you can see. That's the first thing. The second thing here, the assumption that's done here is that the early diagnostics are done specifically and always in the right person. And the thing is that we know that's not true. So when you look at this curve here, is the cost for one person along the lifespan. But to be able to apply an early diagnostic to the right person, you might have to look at many, many other persons that won't benefit from it, okay? And that's kind of the distinction between the different kind of diagnostics and that kind of very schematic view. And they are what I call the non-symptomatic kind of diagnostic that are in screening or in monitoring, and the symptomatic that go into monitoring and diagnosing. I gave you some examples, mammography, do screening, for instance, in the UK for women over 50, and for women who have basically higher risk, both because of mutation or things like that, they can go into monitoring, okay, and have more regular mammographies. And obviously, when you go into diagnostics, you go into molecular testing to look at specific mutation that can drive a specific therapy, okay, and called kind of companion diagnostics. And what I try to show here is the an assessment about, for each of the 3 tests, the amount of individuals you want to be able to test to have a benefit. And for screening, you're going to be, screening asymptomatic, so people who don't have the disease and some who may have the disease. And obviously that has an impact in terms of the cost of your diagnostics test that you're going to want to put on the market. And if you look at the three phases, it's very schematic about the development of a startup company. They start at the technical validation, and that can be, not even in a company or startup, it can be in an academic research institution where you start doing, your biomarker discovery, your bioassay kind of development. You start gathering data about patients yourself, okay, because you have a connection with the hospital. You may have basically the data to start building, filing a patent, at which stage maybe you start spinning out the company, okay, and deciding maybe to go for investment. And then you have to go to the clinical utility kind of aspect, which is more around increasing the data you have on your patients, and there might be more prospective studies where you kind of collect patients from multi-sites on the disease you're looking at and following them for 1, 2, or 3 years. Usually in the technical validation, which is the one before, is easier and cheaper to go and do retrospective studies. So going to biobanks and samples that were already collected. And at the clinical utility stage, things that needs to be done as well, and ideally you can do that even before that, is starting to do studies about the cost effectiveness of your diagnostic, the price of your diagnostic or the device you're going to be putting in place, and where you're going to be able to put it in the kind of type I said, screening, monitoring, or diagnosing, okay? Because at the very end, it's going to be the commercial deployment. When you start looking at how your diagnostics test is going to be integrated in the care pathway that exists already today, at what stage, who is going to be the payer. And one thing you have to kind of look and decide is look at which country you're going to be getting into. When I created Eagle Genomics, it was a B2B, selling to pharma, to fast-moving consumer goods. They are big companies, and it's the same kind of business deals you are doing. In healthcare, I've discovered that with Nina working and looking at companies. Every country has a different system, and you have to almost start from scratch, okay? And deciding which country you're going to go is going to be quite important. Obviously, the US is the obvious choice, but if you are a company in Spain, you have to and decide to enter Spain first rather than going to the US. There might be good reasons, but you have to explain why you start with Spain and what is the next step to go to the bigger market. And so just to finish, and make sure we have time for discussions. Oh, wow, I'm being kind of very fast. It's looking at the takeaways. At the very beginning of the startup company, there is a lot of emphasis by the founders, the entrepreneurs, focusing on the technology. The test accuracy, is a taken for the investor. Okay, and so just going on that and trying to get more data to get the accuracy as high as you want is great. But for the investor, that's, if you don't have that, don't even talk to them, okay? So when you have that done, the best thing is to do is, get your clinical utility study up and running, make sure that you measure your specificity, sensitivity. One aspect in diagnostic is important is trying to reduce as much as possible the false negatives, okay? Because you want to make sure that you don't miss any patient that will have had a kind of something done afterwards. The second aspect is looking at how to identify the care pathway that has the most important unmet needs in the healthcare, and that's basically trying to look at the market not from your technology point of view, but from the need point of view. And ideally, in this kind of approach, you might want to look at the biodesign approach, for example, that has been developed in Stanford, that Nina Capital is a proponent of use, is forget your technology and trying to use that, I want to build a diagnostic. Where is the care pathway? Where is the care disease, the disease I want to basically focus on? And then identify that need. Then you will see how your technology fits in, okay? So you want to basically start from the needs search, the technology, and ideally you want them to meet in the middle, as opposed to trying to push your technology, in a care pathway if you didn't find a need for it. Run a cost effectiveness analysis as soon as you can, and even a back of the envelope works, okay? Because it shows the investors that you thought about beyond the technology, that you will have to sell that diagnostic test. It will have a price. And you need to identify what the price of the diagnostic is, what's going to be the benefit for the patient, but also the cost-saving potential in the future. And you have to try to get those numbers cracked on. Okay, back of the envelope to start with is fine. It shows that you understand that aspect of the business, and looking at key success parameters for a company is quite important. And the last one, again, even though you're in the technology validation side at the very beginning, start looking at which country you're going to be entering first, why and how. Okay, the same reasons. Don't let that go too late. Okay, but start basically exploring those kind of markets and see which will be the one that will be the first adopter for your diagnostic. And I think that's it. I want just to finish and keep that short so we have time for Q&As. Yeah, thank you.